From her beginnings, Barbie has faced scrutiny for how she represents the female identity. It's been long reported that she was based off of a German doll named Bid Lily, who was based on a sassy and promiscuous comic strip character. The Lily doll was first released in 1955 as a sort of gag gift for men, and it eventually found its way into the hands of Ruth Handler, the co-founder of Mattel, becoming the stylistic inspiration for Barbie, who was then released in 1959. Mattel would even go so far as to acquire the rights to Bid Lily in 1964, discontinuing all merchandise made around the character. So you could consider this to be an attempt on Mattel's part to sort of clean up Barbie's history, trying to ensure that this teenage, all-American fashion model's identity wouldn't be tainted by that of Lily's as a floozy adult woman. But of course, that wouldn't end the conversation around Barbie's body, looks, and how she represents women. In 1979, Mattel would release a Barbie that I think sort of represents a lot of the criticism that Barbie has received over the years. The Beauty Secrets Barbie. A Barbie who wears a lacy teddy that has beauty action arms, allowing you to follow her beauty routine, such as brushing her hair or putting on her makeup. To be fair, I love this doll. I think she's gorgeous. I think the packaging is great, but I can admit that she's not doing a ton for the bad role model allegations that often get thrown at Barbie. Excluding making her brush her teeth, we love a dental hygiene queen. So what happens when a competing toy company sees this doll and decides to take it one step further? We get the Glamour Secrets doll. Move over Beauty Secrets. It's time for glamour. You see, one day as I was innocently scrolling Twitter, I came across this tweet and it basically changed the direction of my life. She's got her lace bustier on, her panties scented and ready to go. Oh, she was that girl. Going feral and needing to know more. So that Toys R Us? Give me the deets. That's the conversation. In case you wanted to hear it. This was a doll sold at Toys R Us whose entire identity was tied to lingerie being a key feature of her outfit, aka absolutely wild. So today we'll be diving into the origins of this doll line, as well as what was happening culturally that made this doll line that would be way too risque today happen.
Color, style, hair that's so wild.
So I usually don't hop into my videos immediately admitting this, but I kind of mess up when doing research for this doll line. You see, for some reason, I thought these also were released in the 70s. So I was doing a ton of research around the cultural trends that were happening in the 70s and the women's rights movement and fashion, and putting together this argument as to why I thought the dolls would be released looking like that. And no, it turns out they were released in 1988. But some of my argument still kind of is reflective of this. So I was originally going to argue that the trends of increased women's rights and the fight for those, combined with kind of this conservative pushback that was taking place that really was pushing for women to be in the home still, led to the result that was this doll that was very focused on appearance. Now, it had a going out dress, so I think it kind of has a bit of that independent, fun spirit. She's going out on the town, she's an independent woman, but it still had that focus on maintaining looks and maintaining the Barbie appearance, which you could argue leans a bit more conservative.
You make up yourself.
Don't know how I messed it up, but realizing the dolls actually came out in the 80s changes the context around them and actually makes it make a lot more sense in a weird way. You see, there were some kind of big cultural changes and fashion changes going on that I think kind of bleed directly into this style of doll. The first one is a trend that we've definitely seen come back before, and that's lingerie as outerwear. While lace in general was already a huge trend in the 80s, pop icons would be taking it a step further by wearing their lacy things on the outside. Take, for example, this photo of Madonna from the VMAs in 1984. This dress and outfit actually looks really similar to our Heather doll outfit from the Glamour Secrets collection. So I definitely think some inspiration probably came directly from this. But of course, Madonna wasn't the only celebrity at the time who was wearing lingerie as outerwear. For example, we have Grace Jones in this gorgeous look, so many Cher outfits that leave little to the imagination in a really gorgeous way. Another example we can look to for this is with the fashion of Jean-Paul Gaultier, who I think I'm pronouncing his name wrong, so sorry to him, but he's credited as really popularizing this lingerie as outerwear trend, and did a ton of looks that basically were taking lingerie pieces and reimagining them in new contexts. Of course, those are more high fashion examples, but we also have trends like the workout wear of the 80s that was very leg showing.
Showing the world what you can do.
And also, in general, lingerie was more available than ever. Brands like Victoria's Secrets, which began in 1977, and Fredericks of Hollywood, were making lingerie pieces more affordable and accessible to the average person. And of course, the lingerie also tended to follow the general design trends in the 80s. As Catherine Hennessy notes in Fashion, the Ultimate Book of Fashion and Style, as more women entered traditionally male-oriented work environments, they found it advantageous to dress as though they were in command, and sure of their sexuality. This meant jackets with heavily padded shoulders, vibrant colors, big hairdos, bold accessories, and shoes with pointed toes and spiked heels. Standing out, being in control, and being confident in your sexuality and femininity were in. Lingerie at this time also became, I would argue, kind of more elegant. Lace, again, was really in, and that's really apparent on lingerie or nightwear at the time. So all of that considered, I don't think it was necessarily the weirdest thing to have dolls wearing outfits that were kind of lingerie inspired. It was culturally just kind of a thing that was happening at the time. Now that we have a bit of an idea as to why these dolls might have been made, let's learn a bit more about who made them.
Flower Princess.
Creda International Incorporated was created in California in 1982. At least I think so. I would be lying if I didn't say how confused I was with the origin stories of this company. Most resources that I can find, including the original copyright date of this logo for Creda International, are from 1982. However, there is also a Creda that still exists today. And if you look at their website on the Wayback Machine, you can see that they said that the company, Creda Promotions, originally opened in 1972 in Australia. Creda Promotions, which would become the brand known as Creda today, is a promotional company that works with a number of different brands making content for them, including toys. For most of the 2000s, Creda was actually the company that was designing and producing most of the toys for McDonald's Happy Meals. But is that Creda the same Creda that made these dolls? I don't know. This is something that I've really struggled with getting an exact answer for. It doesn't seem like Creda was producing like McDonald's toys till after the time period where they were producing the dolls that I'm going to cover, so it's totally possible they're the same company, but it's also possible that they're not. I got really lost in the trademark sauce trying to figure this out, just finding anything with like what brand owns this company or what company owns the brand, and I just don't know. Apparently there's a reason why trademark law is something that people like have to go to school for. But getting away from the trademark and Creda confusion, through the 80s and 90s, the brand Creda designed a number of different toys. Before I get into the dolls, here is a sampling of some of the non-dolls they created. In 1986, they released Uglies, which were a set of figures designed to be just gross, or the ugliest friend you have. In 1987, they did a bunch of bike accessories, including lock draws, which were these themed bike locks, which I kind of like. In 1988, they released Winner's Choice Tiny Horses, a tiny horse for you, and my personal favorite, drumroll please, troll ponies and pets. Oh my god, and they're suffering. So now that I've no doubt built your confidence in the quality of the products that Creda can produce, let's get into the dolls. And don't worry, there's so many. Unfortunately, there isn't any one specific resource or list of every doll they ever released. Crystalline Toy Box, which is a blog, does a really good job of trying to compile some of these and collects a lot of images of some of them, so if you want a little bit of a more in-depth look at some of these dolls, I recommend checking that out. I'm just going to give you a Sparknotes version of the releases for each year in the 80s. This won't be a complete list, a lot of these dolls had different color variations or fashion packs, but it'll give you a basic idea of what we're working with. Beginning in 1982 at the start of the company, this year would also be the beginning of the Flower Princess line, which would be Creata's most successful and longest lasting doll line. With that, we would have the release of the original dolls, as well as fashion fragrance dolls, which were scented dolls. How delightful. That year, they would also release a set with a prince and a princess in these really adorable matching outfits. I think these are quite delightfully designed. I think they are very cute. So we're off to kind of a good start, I'd argue. In 1983, we continue the Flower Princess line with the release of some furniture sets. This bed, absolutely gorgeous. A doll with a unicorn named Rainbow, great naming conventions. And we also have the starry-eyed bride dolls, who you might remember have the same head molds as the Aurora dolls I covered in a previous video. Lastly, we would have the first Flower Princess ballerina released. Moving into 1984, this year we have the release of the Fairy Tale Witch and Fairy Godmother, who I both love. I love the designs of both of these. The Fairy Godmother's like star crown piece is just so fun. It's super pretty. Very big fan. That year they also released separate prince dolls, as well as a royal wedding set, which again, I think this is really nicely detailed and looks really good. 1985 is our final year of exclusively Flower Princess dolls. This year we have the Prima Ballerina doll, significantly different from the other ballerina doll, as well as the Little Sister line, which, you know, it's just the kid. It's the kids. It's the kid dolls for the kids. And then in 1986, we have a big change, finally breaking away from the Flower Princess line. We have the release of Lace. This is absolutely Creata's second most popular doll line, and Lace was released as a competitive product with Barbie and the Rockers and Gem and the Holograms. So it was another rock star doll line, essentially. This line would have a number of different dolls released, as well as fashion packs, and also this specific doll, who I feel like is me in the Creata cinematic universe. Like, she's me. Lace must have done pretty well because by 1987, Creata was going all out with the doll lines. First, they released the Bobby Socks doll line, which was based around fashions from the 1950s. 50s fashions, culture, and music had a little bit of a popularity or resurgence in the 80s. So while it seems out of place, it does kind of make sense, and it's kind of just following a general cultural trend that was happening. We also had the Sun Dreamer line of dolls, which were a line of tan-skinned, swimsuit-clad dolls that totally weren't based off of the California Dream Barbie released the same year. 87 also had the Prom Night line, a collection of dolls wearing formal apparel, joining Hasbro's Prom Perfect Maxi in prom releases that year. I also think this Bride doll was released that year. I don't know much about her. And of course, we also have some Flower Princess releases. So this year we have the Soft and Shimmering Ballerina, so number 3 on ballerinas, and Fashion Changes, which was all about quickly changing the style of the doll. Then in 1988, we'd have some secrets. The first being Suntan Secrets, kind of a predecessor to the Sun Dreamer line, wearing pretty similar outfits, but these dolls had a secret. They could tan. In the sunlight, their skin color would get darker, and then in the shade or the dark, it would get lighter. They also had like stickers you could put on your dolls, so kind of like in a tanning booth, you know, putting the sticker on so you have like a sticker outline when you get tan, which is in some ways fun, but being a like SPF 50 plus person myself, I'm also like cringing a little bit. I will say the boxes did highlight like, wear, you know, sun protection, wear sunscreen, but tanning was a trend that I do not think had a lot of long-term benefits for us as a society. That year, of course, we would also have the release of Glamour Secrets, but let's go ahead and get through the rest of Creata's releases before we dive into those. 1989 would also have a number of new dolls, the first one being a collaboration with the craft brand Tulip. This was a essentially like DIY project-focused doll kit. I really love this. I think this is fun. The dolls look really cute. Sounds like they were fairly popular. Something I think is slightly less fun is the Signature 17 line, which I think were intended to be like more high fashion looking. I personally just think they look pretty boring. I don't love the fashion, and I really don't love the packaging or the boxes, so it's kind of like, for me. Of course, we also have a Flower Princess release with the Growing Pretty doll. This one's actually pretty sweet. It comes with a pack of seeds, so you can grow flowers with your doll, which I think is quite adorable. And lastly for this year, we also had the Bright Eyed dolls. These were dolls I discovered only when kind of putting together this timeline. I don't really like them. They do kind of remind me of like the Big Eye Kid paintings, but something about them I don't love. I don't know. And yes, we did get through the 80s, but just covering kind of the final dolls that they released from 90 to 92, we have Today's Girls, which was a line based around being Today's Girls, Golden Girls of the West, which, wouldn't you know it, I own for some reason. Someone stop me. In 91, they released a line of magical mermaid dolls, and then in 92, they released these Mardi Gras dolls, which, like, I find a little unsettling for some. I think it's the mask. I just don't love the mask. This list is shockingly not exhaustive. There are probably tons of other dolls that I just haven't found in general, as well as some that I just like couldn't find a release year from, like the Flower Princess Stardust doll, which I mentioned in the Aurora video, as well as this Texas Wildflower doll, whose only photo I could find of it is just bald. A bald doll. If you wanted to know how rough things get in the world of like toy history and catalog, it's bad. To put together this list, I just like went through sales listings. But enough complaining. I know what you're here for. It's time to listen for some Glamour Secrets. The Glamour Secrets line consists of 3 main characters: Blonde Heather, Redheaded Tiffany, and Brunette Vanessa. Or was it Blonde Tiffany, Redheaded Vanessa, and Brunette Heather? As far as I can tell, the main trio of dolls would have 2 releases. The first includes the girls in the following outfits, with artwork whose hair matches the color of the doll's hair, and the item of much controversy perhaps, the scented lingerie satchel, which we will talk more about in a bit. Then possibly that same year would come the second release. These dolls are in slightly different variations of their outfits, and the artwork of the dolls for some reason doesn't match hair colors with the dolls themselves. These dolls would also come with a secret scent locket you can wear instead of the scented lingerie sachet. These are great sentences, you know? The other main difference between the dolls is with the second release with the scent locket, there includes a label saying that it confirms to British and European safety standards. So I think that the second release was released in the UK. However, I don't know for sure if it was released worldwide or just in the UK. These dolls did also come with some race variation. There were white and black ones, I believe, except I've only been able to find, I think, one example of a black variant so far. The doll line would also have an advertised 20 outfit packs released for them. However, I've never personally seen any of the like bridal ones included in this lower section, so I don't actually know for sure if they were released. But I will say, these outfits and the outfits the dolls are wearing, in my opinion, are really nicely detailed. They use like a mix of different fabrics. They're very much intended to be like layered on each other, which I think is nice. And as someone that likes a fancy little thing to sleep in, I'm honestly a big fan of a lot of these. I think they're quite cute. Glamour Secrets would also have a budget doll that was released, which was called the Teddy Girls. These were 3 different dolls that were wearing a teddy with a teddy bear. I will say these dolls give me a little bit more of the ick than the regular dolls, simply because the line on the packaging that says have you hugged your teddy today? It just makes me feel kind of, I don't like it. But speaking of packaging, I do think that the packaging on the regular Glamour Secrets doll boxes is pretty fun. I like the front packaging with this kind of floral pattern and the gold foil. It makes it look very attractive. And on the back, we actually get to read some Glamour Secrets. There are tips for facial, nail, and hair care, including things like wearing sunscreen, filing your nails, shampooing your hair. Okay, so it's kind of like basic hygiene stuff, but I think it's all, always great to have it reiterated sometimes, especially when you're a kid and like getting the hang of it and maybe you want to feel more mature and you start washing your face every day. That can be an exciting achievement, and if it makes you feel more glamorous, I think you should go for it. However, the very last tip on the box does change depending on which version of the dolls you have. For the dolls with the secret scent locket, the box recommends wearing it around your neck and putting a little dab of perfume behind your ears whenever you want a refreshing fragrance lift. But the first version of the dolls with our sachet say to put the lingerie sachet in your drawer to give your clothes a delicate scent. And, ellipses, did you find the extra pocket in the sachet to keep your own little secret in? Which includes a drawing of there being like a pair of panties in there. Now this is the point where I can feel kind of uncomfortable with this. Like, the dolls themselves don't bother me that much, considering, again, it was the fashion trends at the time, and they're obviously designed to, like, look like adult women, but this part just, like, kind of gave me, again, that ick. I think they easily could have just called this, like, a clothing scent sachet, and that would have been totally fine by me. I think it's just the term lingerie feels a little bit weird on packaging for a toy that's intended for ages 4 and up. And I don't know if just kind of the general culture around the term lingerie has shifted, but it's definitely something I consider to be like a little bit, more mature. I also want to quickly add that like clothing scent sachets are totally a thing. Like you can just go out and buy those. That's not necessarily like an unusual thing. In fact, I have a really fond memory of one. When I went to Japan with my family when I was, I think, about 10 or 11, I actually got to make what's called a kaori bonkoro, which is like a traditional Japanese scent sachet essentially that has a bunch of herbs in it. And making those was really cool, and I got to bring them home. And so my childhood bedroom always smelled like sandalwood and cinnamon, and it was just so nice. And whenever I smell cinnamon and sandalwood now, I always kind of think of my childhood bedroom. So again, these are normal things. This isn't like a weird thing to make. It exists in a lot of different cultures. Could have been a totally normal thing, but I think they just took it like a little too far. And in terms of who they is exactly, I just want to highlight that like I don't know who designed these dolls. I knew that they were released by Creata, but I don't know who made the face mold. I don't know who designed the outfits. I don't know who made the illustrations. That's just not information that's publicly available or on the boxes in any way. I'm realizing I have some really strong feelings now about like the crediting of artists who create and design toys, but we don't need to get into all of that today. Because there was a switch from the sachet to the solid perfume, I have a feeling maybe when the company wanted to release these in the UK or outside of the US, that maybe they were like, how about you change this? Or maybe people got upset about it in the US and they decided to change it. Like, I can't find evidence technically of either happening, but that's kind of what I would assume. Either there was some pushback about it, or the government was just like, you can't sell this here. And they were like, cool. It looks like these dolls originally retailed for $6.99, which would be about $18.99 today, which I actually think is kind of like on par with dolls that are released today in terms of it being like a single doll with no extra outfit. I mean, these ones are technically like the 2-in-1 outfit thing where, you take off their skirt and now they're now, it's a different outfit now.
Nobody waits to wear the 3-in-1 glamour gown. Well, all the gowns are really different.
I don't usually count that as 2 outfits. Now, I know at the start of this video, I assumed that these dolls were probably pretty heavily inspired by the Beauty Secrets Barbie, considering both dolls are focused around beauty tips and both have kind of like a day to night sort of thing, with both as well having kind of like the going out look and then you can take a piece off and it's like the staying in lingerie look. And of course, with both of the names including the word secret, I don't think it's totally unreasonable to assume that one inspired the other, even though they released a decade decade apart. I also can't help but assume a certain Victoria also provided some, you know, name inspiration as well. But speaking of Barbie and lingerie, through the 80s and 90s, Barbie would actually have a number of fancy frills lingerie fashion sets released. It really seems like dolls in the 80s just got like a lot of fashion that was kind of matching their adult human counterparts. Like, this is what the women were wearing, and the doll lines were like, yeah, women are wearing this. Kids will want to be able to dress their dolls in it. Because also, frankly, a lot of dolls just like didn't wear underwear. It was funny, I was reading through some different threads about this Barbie lingerie set, and I actually saw a lot of comments of people being like, I liked it when I got this because my dolls could finally wear underwear. And I was like, oh yeah, kind of nice to have like that accessory and part of their outfit that also we just wore on an everyday basis as well. So it doesn't need to be like this weird thing associated with it. It's just Barbie wearing the clothes that people at the time were wearing. Again, I just want to highlight, I don't necessarily have an issue with the dolls themselves wearing the fashion. I think the line that more feels crossed was that like toy to user, like involvement, you know, that's the part it feels a little weird. Glamour Secrets line would only be in production in 1988, with Creata going on to, of course, produce different dolls and leave Heather, Vanessa, and Tiffany in the dust. But you know how I said I was going down kind of trademark rabbit holes earlier? Well, the weird thing is that I could never find a trademark for Glamour Secrets made by Creata. However, I could find one from Mattel. In 2000, Mattel would trademark Glamour Secrets for dolls, doll accessories, and play cosmetics sold together as a unit. Nothing would come of that as far as I know, but it just kind of goes to show how weird and often cyclical the toy world is at times. Well, thank you all for coming on this sort of deep dive into the Glamour Secrets dolls with me. I've tried to highlight it through the video with footage already, but I do own 3 of these beautiful ladies. My goodness. Vanessa and Tiffany are the first release, so they have, of course, the lingerie one. But this Heather has the scent locket, which I honestly want to smell. Should we smell it? Forbidden smell? So I'm kind of tempted, honestly, to try and get the other Heather, so I have a matching set of the 3, but I do think that would be a little excessive of me to try and do. Ew, it smells a little smoky. I think this came from a smoking household. I wonder if it'll smell like anything still. I'm afraid I'm gonna tear it open and it's gonna be like it'll like scent bomb my home. It's empty. I'm kind of sad. Heather. These are cruel secrets. Yusuke's like, I do not care. Well, I didn't take close-up shots of the packaging before I did this, which is, I'll just have to tape it back on, won't I? Her green, pink, blue? Green, pink, blue? Twins? I'm a Glamour Secrets doll? Well, that's all. Thank you as well for all of the kindness and love and support on my last video, the Playboy one. That was just lovely to see because, as many of you know, I make just whatever my brain wants to talk about for a lot of these videos. So when one does well, it honestly is just like so nice. It's hard to build a consistent audience on YouTube when you yourself are like the least consistent human on earth. And also, if you watched this entire video, thank you. Did you ever have a beauty secrets doll? Did you ever have beauty secrets? Share them or don't. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!